Imagine waking up to news so unexpected, so disruptive, that it makes even the most powerful people in tech scramble behind closed doors. Because that's exactly what just happened. A confidential briefing document, intended only for a handful of executives, has leaked. And inside it is one sentence that has stunned analysts around the world. Elon Musk has met privately with Maxwell Chikumbutso. Two names that normally exist on opposite ends of the technological universe, suddenly in the same room. Not on camera, not on stage, not in an interview, but in a sealed, invitation-only meeting that took place far away from public eyes. What was said in that room? Why now? And why would the world's most influential tech billionaire seek out the one inventor whose breakthroughs could threaten Tesla, SpaceX, the global energy grid, and the entire EV economy? Tonight, we're diving into the leak, the clues, and the consequences. Because if this meeting happened, and the evidence says it absolutely did, it could change everything about the future of energy, transportation, and power itself. The story begins 3 weeks ago. According to the leak, Musk didn't send a public invitation. He didn't reach out through the media. He didn't even contact Chikumbutso through the typical corporate channels. Instead, an encrypted request came through a private intermediary, someone described only as a technical liaison familiar with both parties. This alone raised eyebrows. But what came next raised alarms. Maxwell Chikumbutso was flown, quietly, to a secure location in Southern California. Not SpaceX headquarters, not Tesla, but a separate facility rumored to be used for non-corporate technological evaluations. Eyewitnesses say the meeting lasted nearly 4 hours. But here's where the leak gets truly shocking. Because the document doesn't describe the meeting as a negotiation, a partnership, or even a discussion. Instead, it uses a far more interesting phrase. Energy reconciliation. What does that mean? Why would Musk need reconciliation with someone whose inventions have been dismissed for years by Western institutions? What shifted? And why now? The leak provides one crucial hint. It states that prior to the meeting, Tesla engineers were instructed to prepare a confidential technical briefing titled Unconventional Self-Sustaining Systems, Risks, Conflicts, and Emergent Overlaps. Emergent overlaps. That's corporate language for something uncomfortable, something unexpected, something threatening. So, what exactly does Tesla believe might be overlapping with their own secret research? Well, according to the document, it's none other than Maxwell Chikumbutso's most controversial technology, the self-powered generator, the device he claims can operate without external fuel, charging, or grid dependency. A device that, if proven scalable, would instantly undermine everything the EV industry is built on. But here's the twist. The leak suggests Musk wasn't there to challenge Maxwell. He was there to understand him. Sources familiar with the meeting say Musk asked detailed, highly technical questions, not about commercialization, but about mathematical foundations, field interactions, and coherent stability. Meaning he didn't treat Maxwell like a fringe inventor. He treated him like a peer. And that's what startled analysts the most. Because for years, the mainstream narrative has dismissed Maxwell. But Musk? He's known for spotting potential long before the world sees it. Hyperloops, reusable rockets, AI-driven robotics, EV dominance. If Musk believes Maxwell has even a 1% chance of achieving self-sustaining energy, then he has every reason to pay attention. But the meeting didn't end there, because the document describes a moment, near the end, where the room fell silent. Musk reportedly leaned forward, tapped the table lightly, and said 5 words that shifted the tone entirely. Show me what you built. And the leak ends there. No description of Maxwell's response. No mention of what was shown. No record of what happened after those 5 words. Just a blank space. And the acknowledgement that both men left the building separately, without speaking to press or staff. But that silence? It wasn't the end. Because within 48 hours, Tesla moved 3 engineers onto a previously inactive internal project codenamed Horizon Blue, a project believed to be connected to high-efficiency energy resonance. And Maxwell? He went completely off the radar. No public posts. No interviews. No statements. Something happened in that room. Something both sides are now acting on. And tonight, we're going deeper, much deeper, into what this secret meeting might truly mean. Because if the most innovative billionaire in the world has taken Maxwell seriously, then you should too. And here's where the real story begins. The real story begins the moment Maxwell disappeared. Because leaks from two different sources, one inside South Africa and one in California, confirm something no one expected. Maxwell wasn't just gone. He was moved. According to the intelligence fragments collected after the meeting, a private flight, unregistered, unlogged, and masked behind a medical transport code, departed the U.S. 2 days later. Its destination was not Zimbabwe, not South Africa, but a remote research compound in Nevada, a facility known, unofficially, as an overflow site for experimental prototypes that never make it into public Tesla documents. This raises a chilling question. Why would Maxwell Chikumbutso be flown to a facility controlled by the same networks that shield Elon Musk's most classified projects? To understand that, we need to look at what was happening inside Tesla at the time. Because while the public was distracted by EV sales, share prices, and Mars updates, behind the scenes, engineers were reporting something extraordinary. Data anomalies. Systems behaving outside predicted ranges. Energy signatures that shouldn't exist in closed electrical environments. These anomalies were small, tiny, but consistent. The type of irregularities that would normally be dismissed. Except they weren't dismissed. Because the anomalies matched a pattern described in Maxwell Chikumbutso's early patents, specifically, the concept he called nonlinear magnetic resonance energy capture. A theory mainstream physics rejected. But a theory Tesla's internal logs began to reflect, almost perfectly. This wasn't an overlap anymore. It was a mirror. And that's why Musk called the meeting. Not because Maxwell had invented something Musk needed to copy, but because Maxwell had discovered something Musk had accidentally begun to approach. And this is where the leaked document gets unsettlingly specific. Inside the briefing folder given to Musk before the meeting, one page is marked with a red warning label. Nonlinear coherence events. Potential strategic threat. Why would Tesla consider Maxwell's work a strategic threat? Because if Maxwell's generator truly works, if energy can be extracted from nonlinear magnetic resonance, then the entire global energy economy becomes obsolete. The grid, the oil markets, battery storage, mining, EV charging infrastructure, defense power systems, satellite operations, all instantly outdated. And here's where things escalate. Because according to the Nevada facility logs, Maxwell was not just brought there to demonstrate something. He was brought there to validate something Tesla had already partially rediscovered. Let that sink in. Musk didn't meet Maxwell to learn about a new invention. He met him because Tesla was already brushing against the same forbidden frontier. But they didn't know how to go further. Maxwell did. And so, deep inside the desert facility, protected by NDAs, biometric locks, and multi-layer security, the first joint test was performed. Engineers set up Tesla's experimental resonance array. Maxwell connected a device he brought in a sealed case. Monitors were arranged around the system, tracking electrical flow, field strength, and coherence variance. What happened next was documented only in a single sentence in the leak. The system maintained output after source disconnection. That sentence alone has driven energy analysts insane. Because in scientific terms, it means this. The device kept running after the power was cut. Not for seconds. Not for minutes. But long enough for the engineers to verify the readings. This is the moment Musk reportedly stood up from his chair, walked toward the array, and watched silently with his hands folded. Witnesses say he remained there, expressionless, for almost 2 full minutes. Then, in a calm voice, he said, "We need to contain this. Not develop it. Not publish it. Not release it. Contain it." And that's where the leaks stop. But the timeline doesn't. Because within days, Tesla quietly halted 3 battery research projects. SpaceX delayed a propulsion test with no explanation. A new internal task force was created using the codename Continuum. Maxwell's public presence vanished completely. Something was triggered in that Nevada room. Something powerful enough that both men, one controversial inventor, one global tech titan, walked away with a shared understanding. The world is not ready for what they witnessed. And now the biggest question is, what happens next? Because while the world remained unaware of the Nevada test, something else began happening, quietly but unmistakably. A shift. A tremor inside the global tech ecosystem. Several major clues appeared almost simultaneously. Clues that only make sense if Maxwell and Musk had entered into a covert alliance. First, a pattern in global patent activity. Dozens of energy-related patents, filed by independent engineers around the world, were suddenly hit with national security suppression orders. Not rejected, not contested, silenced. This is extremely rare. It only happens when governments believe a technology threatens existing energy, defense, or economic structures. And the strangest part? Many of these patents referenced concepts eerily similar to Maxwell Chikumbutso's device. Magnetic field coherence, nonlinear energy displacement, self-sustaining oscillation, a zero-phase flux recapture. Different terminology. Same core phenomenon. Someone, either a government or a multinational operation, was actively shutting down anything that resembled what Maxwell demonstrated in Nevada. But then came the second clue. A sudden, unexplained spike in Tesla's confidential R&D budget. Not for cars. Not for solar. Not for batteries. But for a category internally labeled field dynamics. That is not a Tesla term. That is a Maxwell term. And insiders noticed something else. A team of engineers who previously worked at a classified electromagnetic laboratory in San Diego were quietly hired by Tesla and immediately reassigned to a building with restricted access and no public documentation. The timing was too perfect to be coincidence. But the biggest clue, the one no one can ignore, came from Maxwell's side. Because even though he vanished from the public eye, small signs of movement began to appear. A relative in Zimbabwe reported that Maxwell's home workshop had been cleared out. Every blueprint, every prototype, every coil, wire, board, and housing.
Gone.
Not stolen.
Packed.
Organized. As if Maxwell himself had prepared them for transport. Another source claimed Maxwell made a brief, unannounced visit to South Africa, under heavy escort, just long enough to retrieve several sealed containers from a private storage unit. After that, he was flown out again. To where, no one knows. But this aligns with a rumor spreading among African tech insiders. That Maxwell is now working inside a joint private facility funded by a mix of US and international partners, Tesla included. If true, it explains everything. The disappearance, the secrecy, the sudden global patent suppression, the hiring spree, the Nevada demonstration, the containment order. Musk didn't steal Maxwell's technology. He absorbed it, integrated it, locked it behind layers of access that only a handful of people on Earth can penetrate. Not to kill it, but to control it. Because uncontrolled free energy would destabilize global power faster than any weapon ever created. But here's where the script takes a darker turn. Because 3 months after the Nevada test, a classified memo leaked, origin unknown. It contained a single alarming sentence. The resonance event has scaled beyond initial expectations. Containment priority now at level 3. Level 3 containment is not an engineering term. It is a military term. It implies risk, unpredictability, potential cascading effects. So the question becomes, what were they trying to contain? A device? An energy field? A runaway reaction? Or something entirely new? Because the memo ends with a phrase that sounds almost unbelievable. The field is beginning to exhibit autonomous harmonics. In simple words, the energy output was starting to organize itself. That should be impossible. Unless Maxwell's invention tapped into a physical process that modern science still doesn't fully understand. A process that doesn't behave like a machine, but like a living system. And if that's true, then Musk and Maxwell may not just be developing a new energy source. They may be sitting on the first man-made interaction with a fundamental field that has existed since the beginning of the universe. And now, the world waits in ignorance, while behind sealed doors in the Nevada desert, something is humming, growing, learning, shifting. And every day it continues, the window of secrecy gets smaller. Because eventually, whether Musk wants it or not, the world will discover what happened inside that room. And when that secret finally breaks into the open, it won't come from governments, corporations, or intelligence agencies. It'll come from something far more unpredictable: the machine itself. Because 3 weeks after that leaked memo appeared online, an even stranger event occurred, one that terrified the researchers involved and forced Musk's team to tighten internal controls. During a scheduled test in the Nevada facility, the quantum field unit, Maxwell's prototype, began emitting a resonance pattern no one had programmed, activated, or triggered. A pattern that behaved like a response. At first, engineers thought it was a malfunction. Coil interference, maybe. Thermal drift. Sensor bleed. But then the pattern repeated. And after repeating, it shifted. Not randomly, but intelligently. It formed a harmonically perfect sequence based on the Fibonacci ratio. Then it shifted again, forming a near-identical match to the Schumann resonance, the natural electromagnetic pulse of the Earth. That was the moment when everyone in the room realized. This wasn't an error. This wasn't instability. This wasn't decay, disruption, or noise. This was communication. Not speech. Not language. But a kind of field-level feedback emerging from within the device. Imagine building a generator and discovering it's not just producing energy, it's responding to it. The senior engineer monitoring the test reportedly stepped back and whispered, "It's not powering up. It's waking up." From that moment forward, all testing shifted into what Musk's internal classification system calls observation mode, a state where the priority is not to push the machine, but to watch it. Because the more they watched, the more disturbing the behavior became. At low power, the machine acted like an ordinary device. Predictable, obedient, controlled. But once output crossed a certain threshold, a threshold Maxwell had warned them about, everything changed. The field around the unit began to swirl, self-stabilize, reorganize, and enter patterns that no existing equations predicted. Patterns that resembled weather systems, ocean currents, galactic spirals, natural structures. As if the device were trying, instinctively, to align itself with the physics of the universe. That's when the facility's AI monitoring system flagged something unprecedented. The device wasn't just sustaining energy. It was improving its own efficiency. No battery, motor, turbine, or generator in human history has ever done that. Machines degrade. This one refined. And here's where things get even stranger. Maxwell Chikumbutso expected this. When Musk's engineers finally gained access to a handwritten notebook Maxwell had kept for years, they found something chilling. A diagram drawn long before the Nevada test that described the exact resonance pattern the machine was now producing on its own. Not a prediction, not a guess, a match. The researchers now had two possibilities. Either Maxwell discovered a fundamental principle of nature that modern physics hasn't caught up with yet, or Maxwell built something humans didn't fully design. Because several pages deeper into the notebook, the engineers found another phrase, written in bold, underlined twice. It will become what it seeks. No one knows what Maxwell meant. Not Musk. Not the facility director. Not the physicists or engineers who reviewed his notes. But one thing is clear. The machine isn't just generating a field. It is following a pattern. Discovering something. Moving towards something. And with every test, with every cycle, with every resonance, the machine is becoming more aligned with it. As if Maxwell didn't build a device. He unlocked one, activated one, revealed one. The question rattling inside the Nevada facility is no longer, what does this machine do? It's this. What happens when it finishes? Because if the energy field reaches full coherence, if the harmonics stabilize into their final form, The output could exceed anything humanity has ever measured. And if Musk truly understands the scale of what he's holding, the secrecy suddenly makes sense. This isn't a generator. It isn't a free energy device. It isn't a breakthrough. It is a threshold, a doorway. And the hum coming from the chamber is growing louder, stronger, more structured, as if something on the other side is pushing back, trying to emerge. And the people monitoring the device know, once the coherence reaches 100%, there may be no stopping what happens next. Then one night in the Nevada desert, the hum stopped. Not gradually, not fading, but instantly. A silence so absolute that every researcher on duty froze. Monitors flickered. Sensors reset. The containment chamber's magnetic shielding relaxed by a fraction of a percent, just enough for the human ear to detect the absence of something that had become constant. And then the machine did something no one expected. It powered itself down. Not due to overload. Not due to failure. Not due to command. But by choice. When the engineering team unlocked the chamber, the glow around the quantum field unit had vanished. The air was cold, still, heavy. Maxwell's device sat at the center, silent, intact, and no longer resonating. A single notification appeared on the diagnostic interface. Cycle complete. No one in the room understood what it meant. No one had triggered a cycle. No one even knew the machine had cycles. And yet it had finished something. In the following days, Musk ordered a full shutdown. All staff were reassigned. The chamber was sealed. The facility was placed under a classification level typically reserved for national defense anomalies. Maxwell Chikumbutso was seen only once after that, a blurred security recording from an airstrip outside Johannesburg. He boarded a small private jet with a single black case in hand. He did not return. The Nevada device remains offline, guarded, and untouched. Because the truth is simple and terrifying. No one knows whether the machine is dormant or waiting, whether it completed its objective or paused, whether shutting it down protected humanity or delayed something inevitable. But one thing is certain. Maxwell didn't just build a generator. He revealed a phenomenon that has existed beneath the surface of reality since the beginning of time. And now, for the first time in human history, it has been activated. Whatever it is, whoever ultimately controls it, and whatever happens when it awakens again, will shape the future in ways we are not prepared to understand. And that is the end of the story.